you could you please just a little bit down? Could you lower the volume of that a bit? Could you lower the volume of that a bit? Hello, you there? Hello? Hello?
Hi, Ram. We're here. I think
good.
we're getting ready to get underway.
Good.
Hello and welcome to Cioindex's Thought Leadership Series. This webinar is on the changing role of the CIO in today's global marketplace. We are delighted to have you on board for this very interesting and important presentation. My name is Sonika Nihalani and I am your host. At this point, I would like to go over some housekeeping rules. This webinar is being recorded. It will last for approximately 60 minutes, of which we will utilize about 45 to 50 minutes for the presentation and the rest for your questions. If your connection is dropped, please dial back in. In the unlikely event that our connection is dropped, please wait 5 minutes and then dial back in. Take a look at your control panel and see some of its salient features. Remember, you can ask us questions at any time using the Q&A button, or if you need assistance, you may use the chat button to chat with me directly. You will also be asked to answer 3 poll questions during this webinar. The first of which will be on your screens right now. You have approximately 1 minute to answer this question. Thank you. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Ram Charan. Dr. Charan is a world-renowned business advisor, best-selling author, and speaker who has spent over 3 decades working with many of the top companies, CEOs, and boards. He has authored 16 books, the latest of which is Global Tilt, Leading Your Business Through the Great Economic Power Shift. Dr. Charan, a noted expert on business strategy, execution, building a high-performance organization, 21st century leadership, corporate boards and succession, has worked with leaders of some of the world's most successful companies, including GE, Bank of America, Verizon, Coca-Cola, and many more. In this webinar, Dr. Charan will discuss that the current content of the CIO's work doesn't cut it in today's environment. To be successful, you must seize the moment and reinvent your work skills and mindset in this new game. Without further ado, I present to you Dr. Ram Charan. I'm sure you're all as excited to hear him today as I am. Welcome, Ram. It's all yours.
Thank you, Sonika. I'm really honored to have this opportunity to be working with the people attending the webinar. I learned from all of you, and it's your precious time. And what I have in mind here is to take a number of items. One is that how many jobs are becoming obsolete. Second, I'll take what's the new game. Third is how the mindset needs to change. Fourth is the newer content of the CIOs. Fifth is how to lead the change, in which we have three components: reinvent your organization's social system, reallocate your resources, and link to the front end of the company. Now, as I go through it, all of you have known this in the last 4 or 5 years, particularly, that we have a very, very step change in the external landscape, and many of the jobs are changing in their content, and many of the people in those jobs are having difficulty to adapt. And that adaptation, the lack of it, is now going into obsolescence. So the first thing is that the tenure of the CEOs has been reduced from roughly 7 years to 4.6. A large number of those are actually going in less than 3 years. The job of the CFO has changed, and you see a larger rotation of CFO jobs, and the boards are insisting on a number of things in that job that some of the CFOs are now leaving early. So it's not just the CIOs, it is most of the key jobs, and their content is changing. And that is why this provocative title sheet, and that is tackle your upcoming obsolescence, because if each of us don't keep up in our mindset, in our work content, in our habits with the speed and composition of change, we run the risk of becoming obsolete. So Rusty, would you go to the next sheet that says 24/7 is not enough? In this one you see 2 bullets, very simple. I'm reporting to here what the CEOs on the boards tell me, and they're saying that you've done an excellent job to keep the lights on, as they say. That means your systems are running, your software is running, there's no glitch. They love you for that, and many of them think that you have a very good cost control, capital control, and they're saying a few years ago you got an A for it, but now in the context of the future, it is now a C+. And one CEO told me in a funny manner, he said, tell them the plus is for encouragement. So your job is much bigger, of which this one is a subset what you do, just like it used to be in utilities. They say your job is much bigger, much more juicy, and much more challenging at the same time. It is the opportunity for you to be at the center of decision making. So the second bullet is that now to be A+, you've got to have the customer centricity, that means company's customers, as well as your customers who are the line operation people, and you go on the offense. That means you propose ideas and you sit at the center to help the company become better. Rusty, next please. So we are in a new game. We used to talk about industry boundaries. We used to talk about the industry competitive analysis. Now the boundaries are shifting. You know these things much better than I do. What iPod did to the music industry, to the printing industry, publishing industry, we now have no clear boundaries of many industries. It's now cross-industries disruption. The second bullet is now given the internet, and you know these things much better, and that the access is becoming so cheap. Anybody sitting in a Bangalore hut and get a $50 computer, borrow somebody's access to the internet, can invent something new, and can create havoc. So we now have the potential 7 billion people who can create new things because the barriers to entry via digitization internet have been reduced. And today people can connect. An advertising agency in Poland is able to figure out something that big shots in New York and London used to do. And this agency has done a fabulous job for some of the biggest accounts with the connectiveness. The digitization is intensifying competition, and this competition is not just from your direct rivals, it is also from the indirect ones. As I mentioned to you, and if you recall recently, the intensity of competition within the PC industry, tablet industry, cell phone industry, and here the various destinies have come to pass over the cliff. And the last one is this disequilibrium in global trade and the global financial system. I give you a simple example. In the last 8 months, roughly, since Abe came in power in Japan, the currency exchange has tilted hugely, and that is yen has gone from roughly 78 to the dollar as high as 102. It's about 99. So if you were an American producer of automobiles, you just have gotten a 78 to 99 yen to the dollar, a clear disadvantage, and that all goes to the bottom line. And in the last 4 weeks, the currencies of Indonesia, India, Brazil have taken a shellacking, and these are realities against which the CEOs of the companies have to really go at it. So here is a scenario of external change, and our CIOs have to be outside in to look at the business as a whole as if they have the CEO mind. This is the critical point, a CEO mind, to see what are the changes. To do that, let's see the next slide. And you have to take a seat at the management committee table. This is just a way of saying it. But I do want to caution you, because I see in some companies that the CIO clearly has the access to the CEO, clearly has access to all the peers, but is still not a part of the regular leadership team at the top. But get the access first, and then you earn it a seat at the table. And in doing that, you've got to think about how your work content mindset has to change. So Rusty, could you take to the next slide? And here I have a proposition for you on 2 bullets, that you change your mindset from company, from servicing the company, and computing needs. You've got to do that as a given to servicing the total business needs. And most companies are now moving towards the buzz phrase customer centricity. And you have Microsoft saying customer centricity, one Microsoft. Ford, Mr. Mullally, Alan Mullally, brought customer centricity by saying one Ford. Honeywell saying one Honeywell. That means unite that. What are the customer customer segmentation? What are the customer needs? All banks will have that. One bank. That means customer centricity. There used to be a fetish competition. Now it's abundantly clear that the company CEOs and the top team start with customer first and then look at the competition and so on. So the CIOs have to be absolutely in sync. What is that customer centricity? So Rusty, could you please shift to the next slide? It says new work content. And so here is what I'm hearing, but this is a provocative sentence here. And you've got to make up your own mind, but this is really upside down. And we're saying you as a CIO, how you have to spend your time. One thing common to all managers is the use of time. Time cannot be manufactured. So here are 3 bullets of the allocation of your time. And I'm talking here the CIOs, not everybody in your organization. This division of time is you spend 15% of your time in what that gives you C plus the IT services, and a 15% of your time with your client relationship. That means with business people and so on and the ecosystem. But some 70% of your time is to work with your senior team, with your sales team, with your marketing team, with your operations teams, service teams that help develop a unique proposition and competitive advantage. Unique proposition is something like this, that whatever your company offers, does the consumer prefer it over others and willing to pay for it? And that is a unique proposition. You all know Apple had unique propositions in terms of consumer experiences. At one point, FedEx, even now I suspect, my people tell me, has a unique proposition. So they have a good deal of business compared to some others. And there, the CIOs in the future and now many companies have to be at the center. What that means, that information usage, information shaping is at the center for the business prosperity, given the big data, given the new devices, given the consumer ease to use mobile devices. The whole value proposition for companies have changed, and the CIO work using data properly shaped, properly thought through, is at the center of the company's prosperity. And so 70% with unique proposition, and with that also detecting the early warning signals in helping the management, because the information systems, information availability, information shaping, all those things you can help, and that help people to see what are the bends in the road. So there have been many bends in the road. You have known them, and these bends in the road are right now, is PC, personal computer, going to come back? Is it going to be changing in a material way? What is the next thing coming in? So you now have tablets, you now have mobile phones, and these are just the beginning. So what are those bends in the road? And you are a part of the management team using big data, early warning signals. You are now at the table. So in doing that, I have these three items. One, what you need to do regarding reinventing your organization's social system, that means how it works. Second, how to reallocate financial and human resources. And third, how do you link to the front end of the company? What I am really learning from the CEOs, that the CIOs who are not yet, they need to move from tech savvy to business savvy, from operational savvy of technology to customer savvy. These are common sense things people can learn. So let me take about leading the change. One is reinvent your organization. And the key difficult question for every leader in CIO is, do you have the right people in the context of the future? This is your highest leverage. Are these people just the technology people, operating technology people, and project managers? Or are these people now understand customer of the business, customer needs, customer value propositions, and working backwards from there on the technology? The second item is that they really need to see from the business viewpoint what has to be the competitive advantage. Advantage through the eyes of the company's customers and consumers. And how would that happen? So there are consumer companies today that have 60% gross margin. It sells to Walmart, who are very savvy about supplier margins, but they're using the information system and big data to improve the turnover of the shelf on Walmart, and Walmart is willing to pay. That is what I mean at the center of the business proposition. The next part of leading the change is, are you going to reorganize and redefine the jobs and therefore the remuneration? And are you able to create your cost structure variable to the extent you can, lower the capital intensity by using things like cloud? These things you know better than I do. and you continue to work with your ecosystem to use the leverage, because today competition is not just among companies, it's now in the ecosystem. If you are an airline, it is now an ecosystem. So your job definition has already been broadened, but further needs to go to the front end of the business and say, how do we really build an ecosystem that competes more profitably than others? And the last point is that going to require a change in the performance evaluation in your organizations? So that's the one part of leading change. That I mentioned, reinvent your organization. The second part of the leading the change is reallocate your financial and human resources. And here I have a suggestion to you to make your budget in a different way. That when you are working with your line people, and in these line people, they have budgets to improve their marketing. They need big data to optimize their services. They need big data. They have 100 products. Is 10 products accounting for more revenues and more profits, and so on, or finding the prospect list? All those things, they should have the budget to ask you to help them achieve what they want, and you apply your expertise as if you are a consulting company who depends on making the customer more profitable. So in doing that, I like to suggest to you to have three parts of your budget. One is your normal budget of keeping the lights up, systems running, no glitch, maintaining them, etc. The second part of the budget is you must continue to do the innovation in your own technology area. You may borrow it, you may partner it, but continue to improve for cycle time, better service, lower cost, more efficiency. It is the third budget that matters. And that third budget is that this budget is for that improves the company's revenues, margins, brand equity, market share, and have those funded by the line people, and they are projectized, and your people are rewarded. You have people from the line people together to deliver those projects. Some may require outside help. So here you need to create three kinds of budgets. Now you're going to get a lot of pushback from CFOs to contain your budget. So at this point you need to see what kinds of things you can extract from your existing budget, and that requires a lot of courage. But you need to have the skills to present to the top team, go on the offense, that the company needs a better cycle time to service distributors, and to do that, IT has to be the center. If you say we will cut the cycle time by half, and by doing that you will reduce inventories in the pipeline, that will save you cash and a better service. My view is you will be accepted very quickly because you are using customer centricity, and this is the new game in the world. So I now go to the last part, that you need to link to the front of the company, and that I'll just mention outside in. That means if you are supplying through distributors, for them to have less inventory, faster fulfillment, and account receivables are now cut in half. If that is the case, how can IT, software, mathematics, these 5 items that you know better than anybody in a company are responsible for changing the game? Let me recite the 5 items. The digitization, the sensors, the mobility, use of algorithms, and internet. They're changing the whole value chain. It is going to eliminate some of the links in the chain. You go on the offensive, you show them for the future, and say without that we can't. So if you were a company that is distributing certain things to the consumer and the customers, like the basic supplies to various companies. You have now Amazon, and Amazon going direct, using those 5 items of digitization, internet, sensors, and mathematics like algorithms and so on. That is formidable, and those things are reducing prices and reducing margins. So you make this presentation to your senior colleagues, to your CFO, and say that we were using the language of the business and not the language of technology. All of you know, if you attend the conference calls to the investors, the language of business is revenues, margins, market share, brand equity, customer retention, and customer satisfaction. You're learning about the customers, going in front line, and therefore, in a short sentence, we now have come where we are required to be a business partner. We are required to be proposers to make the change. We are required for these CEOs to be informed by you what external changes are coming. So I thought in about 20 minutes here, so that we have plenty of time for questions, the job of CIOs is changing in a quantum way. We need to consider stepping up from simply keeping the system running without any glitch. We need to be a part of the team and be at the center of the team. We need to be customer focused, customer of the company, and customer, the CEOs and the operating people as your customers. Use the language of business, of revenues, margins, return on capital, efficiencies, customer satisfaction, market share. We need to think an ecosystem, not just for technology, but for the company. And we need to be absolutely driving, because information is the center, what is the value proposition a customer prefers over the competition. And so please bring your chair to the table. That's euphemistically saying that you have access to these people and make the pitch to the people what their pain points are and getting the allocation of the budget from them. So Sonika, that's the basic suggestions I have for the group.
Ram, would you like me to share the results of the first poll that we post to our audience?
Yes, please. And there's still an echo there, Sonika, so just away from the microphone.
Okay, we had about 77% of the attendees who participated in the poll. 52% of the ones who participated say that their CIO has, they or their CIO has a seat at the senior management table. And about 24% say that sometimes they do, 19% do not, and 6% don't, are not sure whether they or their CIOs have that seat. So would you please share your opinion on the poll? So it's almost 52% who say that they do have.
Nice, very nice. We got to go to 100% because the obsolescence is very fast.
Okay, is there anything else that you would like to share, Ram, or should we just go to the questions?
Go to the questions. Okay.
So the first question that we have for you is, everywhere there is so much emphasis on being a business leader for the CIO these days. So what, in your opinion, is a business leader?
Yeah, they simplify the phrase business leader and simply say that how your company makes money. Attend the investor conference call and you ask simple questions after the call from your CFO friends and so on, that what is needed going forward to improve margins, revenues, share, customer satisfaction, and what is it and why is it the consumer or customer prefers us, and what is required to continue to do that. If you get those questions answered, you are going to be in the pew of business study.
Ram, why is there so much discussion around the CIO role? You know, the airwaves do not seem to be full of discussion on the relevance of a CMO, CFO, or any other CXO role. So why so much discussion around the CIO role?
The CIO is now the trustee of information flow, information packaging, seeking new information. That is at the center of decision making. That was not so much before. Just like manufacturing used to be in 1900s, same way now information, it's dissection, it's diagnostics, it's external information, it's detecting early warning signals, and it's not technology, it is interpreting, asking the right questions, getting useful inferences. That has become an absolute requirement for management.
Thank you so much. You know, in this discussion today, we were talking about how the CIO should prevent going obsolete. Are CIOs going obsolete? For example, the big data push is causing CMOs to have ever-increasing IT budgets. Cloud computing is pushing infrastructure responsibility outside the organization. Outsourcing has already chipped away at a major portion of the CIO's portfolio. So what's really left?
No, the key here is a simple one, that if you are clearly linked with the top team, how to increase margins, how to increase revenues, share, etc., you will not be obsolete. If you're doing it and the CEO tells you, come at the table and challenge us, you're there. If you're not challenging, just like the marketing guy or lady sitting at the table, a finance person sitting at the table challenging the business, if you're doing it, great. If you're not doing it, you're not there yet.
So it's very important to be at the, you know, get the seat at the table and voice your opinion.
As a business person, because marketing people, technology people, finance people, even now HR people doing that, to look at the business as a whole.
Thank you. What specific leaderships would you recommend that a CIO must possess? That a CFO or a CMO doesn't need to have.
Yeah, Sonika, this is the cardinal question. There are zillion things one can say, but there's only two things the CIOs need to focus. And those two things, one is a skill and second is leadership. The skill is to learn, just like a CFO or an investor dissects a company's performance and shareholder value. That's a skill, it's not leadership. And they can learn it, get a tutor, it's there, and your communication with CEO and CFO will improve dramatically compared to when you did not have it. The leadership is your organization. Did you have the right people who connect better with the line people and understand consumer and can create projects that directly go beyond keeping the lights up? Those are the two simple things. They're hard to do. You got to persist and you got to make it happen.
Thank you, Ram. And final question, which is very interesting. Why should there really be a CIO? After all, quality is also a key weapon to create competitive advantage, and we don't really have a chief quality officer. So could you elaborate on the relevance of having a CIO?
There is no function in the company today that does not use information. So the information is like a blood flow in the body. And somebody has to be at the center of anticipating what is needed, how it is to be given, but also participating how it is used for what purposes. So this function has now come into more importance than ever before.
Well, that was our final question, Ram. I thank you so much for this very interesting presentation. And I thank you all once again for attending today, our attendees. We have finished the webinar earlier than scheduled, and we hope you enjoyed it and gained from it. Your feedback is appreciated as we continually strive to improve upon what we deliver to our members. And you may send your feedback to our webmaster. Today's webinar was the first in our Thought Leadership series. Our next webinar in the series, The Science of Organizational Structure, How to Build a Customer-Focused, Entrepreneurial, Team-Oriented Organization, is scheduled for October 22nd. Please visit our events page at cioindex.com to sign up. As mentioned earlier, this webinar has been recorded. You will be able to access the recording through our events page at cioindex.com under our archived events. Thank you so much, Ram, and thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you. Great.